And our next guest is doing it and wants to do it in a different fashion. We've got Norm Childress in. He's running for Commissioner District 3, a seat that's being vacated. So let's say good morning to Norm. Good morning, Norm. How are you?
Good morning, Dave.
Good to have you. This is Richard Miller, by the way. And
good morning, Richard.
Our commission is the governing body for the county, and they make the decisions that direct the unincorporated areas of Yakima County. Each city has its own government, but Ron Anderson, Mike Leda are still on board, and you're looking to, with the most crowded race, I think, of all the folks that we're talking to. So a lot of people want a shot at this job. Why do you think that is? They got all the answers, or it's a sweet job?
Well, I don't know about it being a sweet job, and I don't know what personally motivates them. I know why I run.
And which is why?
Well, I tell you, Dave, I'm mayor of Grandview right now. A little bit of my background. I was born in Yakima in 1958, and I've been in the valley my whole life. And my wife is from Sunnyside. I married her, and she's been a Yakima Valley person her whole life. Mm-hmm. And we raised our 2 children here. And just had a great life. And I've served the citizens of Grandview for 26 years. I served 12 years on the city council, and then 14 years as mayor. And
Grandview's kind of thought of as kind of the jewel of the Lower Valley. A lot of people really, Grandview kind of has got some really good stories to tell, don't you think?
Oh, Dave, I'm so proud of what we've had to do, and I can't take credit for all of it, of course. We have a great team. We have a port district that's just going great guns, and the city provides infrastructure and services to the city, and we work hand in hand, and it's just terrific. We have a beautiful city, and I'm so proud of what we've done down there.
Yeah, well, you should be. So people need to keep that in mind as they factor in the kind of decisions and actions that you might take. I mean, let's say one of the best roadmaps for the future is watch the tracks where you've been, and you've got a pretty good record to tell there. When you look at our current county commission, what's your take as a Lower Valley mayor? You have opportunities to interact with county government. When you're on council down there as well, some of the issues that I just remember meetings that we had with the county, and those are areas where our responsibilities, ours end and theirs start, and vice versa. How do you think things have been going with this particular crew of county commissioners?
I tell you, I like what they've done a lot. Mike's been there, I think, about 13 years. I talked to him a little bit yesterday. I think he was telling me he's been on 13 years, and Rand, I think, was doing a good job, and he's decided to retire. Ron Anderson, he's kind of a newbie,
yep.
And he's getting his feet wet, and I think he's trying real hard. But I tell you, Dave, I talked to some of the other elected officials in the county. I wanted to make sure what I was getting into, and so I made sure and touched base with the department heads, and they've really developed a strong team there. And the financial shape the county was in when particularly when Rand and Mike took over, it was in dire straits, and they've pretty much got things turned around. We're seeing an economic upturn in the city, and the economy in general is good. But I think the commissioners have done a good job, and I think they've got things righted, and I would like to jump on that bandwagon.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily something that the commissioners aren't doing that they should be, or something they did that they botched. What is it that what would be your key issues, your 1 or 2 things that you think would be important if you were a commissioner that you would try to tackle that the current council maybe isn't addressing?
Well, I think they're doing pretty good. I have a background. I'm retired from Benton County. I have 37-year career there as an engineering services manager working in transportation engineer, and I work closely with the commissioners down there for 37 years at the courthouse where I worked.
And that didn't scare you off? So.
No, no. So I worked with many commissioners and attended hundreds, if not thousands, of commissioner meetings, made reports to the citizens and the commissioners. And I tell you, near and dear to my heart, since I'm a transportation engineer, is the road system, farm to market roads, and it's important in an ag economy. And I think the commissioners are doing good with that, and I would like to lend my expertise to that. Also, we've had some pretty good success with economic development in Grandview.
Well,
and
that big Walmart center certainly
Walmart
didn't hurt, did it?
distribution, we've got lots of successes down there, and it's just terrific. But one of the things that I hear when I visit with folks is the permitting issue still has some people concerned. And I tell you, the department that I managed, I supervised thousands of permits. I was in charge of access management. So when people built developments, they did driveways, utility cuts. My crew went out, worked with them, issued the permits, and I think we had a pretty good process going. So I kind of understand that process, and I've heard from folks there's some hiccups there, and until I get in the job, I won't know exactly what those are, but you're not going to pull the wool over my eyes. I know how it should work, and I think I can maybe help out if there are some issues there.
Norm, there are a couple of controversial issues that have some similarities that the commissioners tackled in the last year. One of them was their stance or their reaction to the Hearst decision, which wasn't popular among some folks in the county who either had wells or maybe wanted to dig wells or had plans to do a development, right? And the commissioners made a decision to enforce things to avoid lawsuits. And the other issue was the marijuana issue, and I think you're on record as agreeing with the commissioner's stance on that they should enforce the law in the unincorporated areas of the county with respect to whether you can have a marijuana business there, and they believe you shouldn't be able to. And they weren't so worried about a lawsuit there. If you were a commissioner, would you have gone down the same road on those two issues?
Well, the permitting issues, boy, that's a tough one because I can see both sides of it like you can on many issues. There's gray areas.
Sure.
And Dave, you know from your time on council, there's some really tough decisions, and obviously you're not going to satisfy everybody. You make a decision one way, you're going to upset one set of group folks, and the other way you upset the others. And I do think they were basing their decision on some advice that they got. Kittitas County had some lawsuits and some legal issues, and I think they were acting on that. And I would have to do my own investigation and do more. I wasn't privy to some of those discussions, so jury's still out on that one.
But you know, as a guy who had to make the call yourselves, what a waste of your resources are to spend it in court. I mean, if there's any way you can make decisions and not have to spend your community's hard-earned dollars fighting stuff out in court, because those things always get so protracted and you never know what kind of solution you're really going to get. And so, I mean, I can understand not being bullied by the thought of a court hearing, but by having that guide you when you make decisions. It's not like courts be damned, full speed ahead. Maybe sometimes that's the best route, but there is a responsibility on you not to lose money that way.
There is, in order to be fiscally responsible. You're talking about taxpayers' dollars, and it is a tough issue when you have to make those decisions, and sometimes you feel like you're rolling over, and believe me, I've had to do that before, and I hate it. But it's the wise thing to do. Sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and do what you have to do. And that doesn't mean I agree with what they did. I watched the public hearings on YPAC, and I heard a lot of folks that were impassioned about it, and people usually are when you're talking about getting in their wallet.
Yeah.
And so really, I'm not sure on that one. I guess it's not that I don't mind making decisions, but I want to get all the information. I don't think I have all the information I need on that one, but I do understand the issues. As far as marijuana goes, in Grandview we don't have it. In Grandview it was a 7-0 vote, so it was pretty easy. Council voted 7-0. And mayor, in a strong mayor system, I don't have a vote. I'm the strong mayor, and so we have 7 council members.
You would have a veto, but on a 7-0 vote, well, that veto just extends the process another meeting longer,
I didn't fall off the pumpkin wagon yesterday.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
The deal is, and I agree with it. You know, it was overwhelming here in the county that folks did not want marijuana, and twice, not once but twice, there was an advisory vote. And as a representative of the county, I think I would support the citizens' opinion and what they want, and that's why they had the advisory vote, is to get the advice of the citizens.
Some people might think that they the first vote was clear enough, and they should have taken action rather than letting some things get a toehold and make people make investments and all of that. And now they're coming back, but that's the past, and you move ahead, and that's the decision.
Well,
so.
Dave, I think you're right, and I've heard people say that that they're sympathetic toward the businessmen made investments, but then I heard an argument in one of our forums, and I think it was a good point, that if you're going to invest that much money in a business, you better get your ducks in a row, and you better know what's coming down the road before you put that money on the line.
Yeah, because the possibility was out there the whole time. As long as you're on that side of the federal law and the general thoughts from the county have spoken, you're rolling the dice knowing what the odds are, too. So good point, Norm. As a guy who's been involved in government for so much of the time, and who've had the success that you have had down in Grandview, there's still a general lack of turnout, of involvement, of engagement by people. People don't seem to really jump into the process until it's their project that matters to them or whatever. Do you have any thoughts on how we can get more people to care about? I mean, let's face it, the county government. How big's the budget? What's the? I mean,
it's about $250 million, over 60 for the general fund.
Right.
But yeah, and Dave, you know what? You hit the nail on the head. This engagement thing, and it's not only the citizens; it's elected officials, and it's one of my big pet peeves. Is I've sat on lots of boards and commissions, statewide and county. Right now, I'm on 4 county boards, and it's amazing how many times we can't conduct business because we don't have a quorum. And those are elected officials that should be showing up.
Right.
And when we hired the emergency management director, I conducted interviews from my motel room on vacation because we didn't have a quorum to make that decision, which I was glad to do. I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying when you run for office, by golly, you ought to show up to represent the folks. I'm on the YCDA board, a 28-member board, and they recognized me a couple of weeks ago as the only member that had perfect attendance. I didn't miss a meeting. And
that's the job, right?
It is the job. And I'm proud of the organizations I'm involved with, and I think the county's got some great things going. But I know what it is. I know what the job is. I know what the responsibilities are, and I meet those responsibilities. When I sit on a board or a commission, I make those meetings and represent the people I'm there to represent.
You know, Richard, I would say this to you, and because you've been filling in and on and off at KIT for 20 plus years, and you may recall back a couple of commissions ago, the phrase we heard so much was unfunded mandates. We got all these unfunded mandates passed down to the county, costing us money, that sort of thing. I have not heard that in a while. Norma, is that your consideration, that maybe we've had a respite from that we're being allowed to spend the money on what we want rather than on what outside entities are directing us to do?
Yeah, Dave, my time I served on the AWC board of directors, and we handled legislative matters. That's a lot of what the board did was try to set the direction for cities and lobby for those issues. And I tell you, a few years ago, we would go over to Olympia, and we'd meet with Jim Honeyford. I hear him talking. By the way, Jim's great. He's helped us out a lot. But we would meet with our legislators, and we'd have our hand out. We'd have projects, and of course, you've done that. We try to get money from the legislators. But on the last few times we went over, we were just asking. We're not asking for money. Just don't hurt us.
Yeah.
Don't do any harm.
Right.
So, leave us alone. We're doing fine because of those, the unfunded mandates. It's like, we're don't give us any money if you don't have it, but don't hurt us either.
Right. Well, such a busy field. There's an awful lot of folks, like we said, to start this thing that are interested, a lot of variety of experiences. We talked to other people, say this kind of interest should ensure that we get a good person for the job. I mean, it's nice to see that a number of people are bringing a variety of experience to the commission position. If you were to assess the Norm Childress story and wanted to make that minute pitch to somebody who's just finding out about you, what would you tell them to convince them that with the primary ahead, you need to be in the top 2?
Well, Dave, I tell you, I lived in the Valley my whole life, and I love the Yakima Valley. And I've had very success. I'm retired. I'm very happy, and I've got a lot of help along the way, and I get fulfillment. Jim mentioned that, and I do too. It's very fulfilling to help people out, and I think I'm good at it. I have a gift there in leadership, and I like to share that with people. And I tell you now, in the county, we're losing a good commissioner. We have one that's a veteran, and we have one that's fairly new. We have a public works director that left, engineering services manager left. We're going to get a new sheriff, probably a new clerk, hopefully a new clerk, maybe a new coroner. So with all those new people, I think it'd be nice to have somebody that has 26 years elected experience, 37 years in county government experience. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I sit on 4 county boards now, right next to the county commissioners. I'm making the same decisions they're making. I just switched the seat from the city rep to the county rep. So I'm already doing a lot of the things they do now. And I think with the folks that are leaving, you can use that kind of experience. And I'm ready to work for the people of Yakima County. Norm Childress, please vote.
You really do represent, I think, something unique among all the candidates, and that is your vast experience. It's not as though you're getting somebody new to the commission that would have as big a learning curve as everybody else. You've been there, done that a lot along the way over all of those years, so you certainly represent a viable guy to be seeking the position. Norm, we want to wish you the best of luck. If you come out of this process unscathed and in the top 2, we'd love to have you back, talk a little more in detail about some of these things, but this is a chance for the community to hear you and get to know a little bit more about you and your background, and then we'll poke around in issues more down the road. But thanks very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Dave, thank you very much. You guys do so much for a community outlet here and providing information to people. I've listened to this for 35, 40 years, and you provide so much information to the community, and I really appreciate that service.
Thank you very much. Well, have a great day, great next couple of weeks campaigning, and we look forward to future conversations down the road. Norm Childress, running for 3rd District, District 3 County Commission, along with 6 other candidates. So it's a busy race. We'll be right back. You're tuned to The Source, Newstalk 1280 KIT.